one of the things you bring up is that even if an experience is quite positive, people can feel very sad afterwards, and it can still be challenging even if it was really positive, and that there's work to be done afterwards. It's not like she had that healing experience, now whoop, she's good forever, now doesn't have to do anything. It's just like she'll just like step right into healthy sexual relationships. It's like, boss, 2 thumbs up, we got it. There's like a lot of work that needs to happen there.
Yeah.
And that work, that integration work, you separated into different stages. And I'd be curious if you could tell us what those different stages are and what they might look like, and what practices you feel fit best in certain stages and not others.
So in the book, I talk about integration in these different stages of integration and what each mean and what each can offer. So I'm going to review that a little bit here. The first part of the integration is when we return from a journey. I call it the return, I think. I don't remember now, but I think I call it that way. When we return from a journey, there is this first feeling of newness, of the transformed self. I was talking to Julietta's daughter, Eugenia, recently, and she calls the journey transformation. She said, before the transformation or after the transformation, which is a very interesting choice of words, right? The vocabulary she uses is very... I like that. That was a piece of teaching that I felt. That was anyway. So before the transformation, we have a certain self, and after the transformation, the self is altered, right? It's transformed. It's things have happened, I should say. And so this new self, who is that? And that's the first piece of integration. Noticing the state, the flavor, the texture, the feeling, the sense, physically, emotionally, the relational field. How do we sense ourselves? How do we perceive this transformed self? So that's the first stage, is noticing who this new self is. Taking stock of this person here that is now our new self. Secondly, the next stage of integration is the narrative of the journey, the content of the journey. Naming, writing, speaking, reporting, it's just sort of downloading the entire narrative, the visions, the feelings, the this, and then I went there, and then I saw this, and then I realized that, and all this different, intricate, multifaceted layer of an experience. What we remember, what we don't remember, we vaguely, there was something to do with that, just naming it. Because in the narrative, we find, with the help of a guide, or after a while we are used to read into our journeys, the connection with the intention that started the process. So I came in a journey wanting to be more spiritually connected, having more relationship with my spirit, right? And I go into this journey, and I go into my hurt child, or I go into my, being a tree, or I go into, feeling for the people in Bangladesh, or something, right? And all these answers are answers to my question. How do I decipher them? How do I realize? How do I open my intelligence, not my mental state, although, it's not bad to have a mind and intelligence, but my intuition in realizing that being a tree is a great spiritual teaching. Or resolving my anger with my father is a great liberation that gets me access to spiritual teaching through the compassion. Or that feeling for the people in Bangladesh is transposing my individual identity away to become someone else, which is a great spiritual experience. So, spirit, the way we imagine, I'm having a spiritual experience. If I dissolve my ego into the cosmic consciousness, well, it can be that. It can be 5 million other things. So reading a journey from the download is an important piece of integration. Why is this journey a direct answer to my intention? my quest, the beginning of my hero's journey, right? I'm going to get somewhere to find something in myself, and the answer is provided. It's just needing to be sometimes decoded. So that's the second piece of integration. The third piece of integration is, well then, how do I stabilize this transformed self? How do I put in place these new states? Because it's new, it's unfamiliar, it's non-habitual. How do I maintain them in real life? How do I manifest them? You know, in my somatic studies, my graduate program, and all my somatic experiencing, I've understood, and I've studied that unless it's embodied, it loses its function. If you don't use it, you lose it. You know, that's the thing. You don't use it, you lose it. If you don't use your new self, you lose your new self. If you don't practice your new self, it's going to regress into the old habitual pattern. Even though the great illumination of your journey is so strong that you feel, I'm good, like you said, thumbs up, I'm good to go. Well, guess what? Yes, you will remember. Yes, you can have access to it. Yes, you can take refuge in it. But if you don't practice it, it will not maintain its footing in the ground of your life. You know, you need to put roots into something to grow. You know, if you don't put the tree in the ground, guess what? It won't become a tree. You know, it'll be some kind of, seedling somewhere. And so we need to give it roots. And to give it roots, you need to water it. You need to tend your garden. And to tend your garden is the third integration, right? The third part of integration. Practices. I want to have a spiritual life. Well, then I'm going to go and sit by the tree. I want to have a spiritual life. I'm going to reconnect with my father, dead or alive. I'm going to cultivate my compassion. I'm going to talk. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to send some of my resources to Bangladesh. This is my integration of my spiritual experience. I'm going to walk my talk. I'm going to put money where my mouth is, literally. I'm going to do something that involves a gesture that is not habitual for me, but that will support the direction that this journey took me. If I go into a place where I had a great sense of liberation and vitality, and I felt dead before, and now I'm like all vibrating and I'm all alive. I'm like, oh God, I'm breathing. You know, my guide gave me some body work during the journey, or stretched my limbs, and now I feel like, or put some tobacco on my belly, and now I'm like really feeling this vibrancy. But my life is I'm sitting on the computer, many hours a day, and I don't move enough. And so how am I going to keep that vitality? Well, then I'm going to put in place some things that have to do with breathing and pranayama, and I'm going to go to the pool. If it's cold outside, I'm going to swim to keep my breath open, and I'm going to do some yoga, and I'm going to do some jumping on a trampoline, and I'm going to get body work, and I'm going to get some strong, wrestling or something, and I'm going to get in my body. I'm going to cultivate that vibrancy and vitality because I owe it to myself. At the end of the day, it's not so much a linear process that, okay, I want to get there. I want to get somewhere. It's like, the gist of integration really is honoring one's quest. If I want to have more life in my body, or if I want to have more spiritual awareness in my life, and I get to touch that in a journey. My inner self and the mushrooms, everything is collaborating to create that. I have my answer, which is always there. And then what am I going to do with this beautiful answer that I provided to myself? Am I going to let it sit on the shelf and gather dust, or am I going to honor it, right? So the integration process really is an amazing relationship with oneself. It's an amazing relationship of self-honoring and self-value and self-love, which is ultimately what we're all after. Self-compassion, self-nourishment, self-acknowledgement, not in a selfish kind of pompous way, ego-building way, but more like tenderness towards self. And so, when we go into those experiences with mushrooms, we really provide ourselves an amazing opportunity to tap into healing and learning and discovery and receiving teachings, and we ought to honor ourselves. It's less even about honoring the mushrooms, that too, that relationship, honoring the relationship we talked about at the beginning, but it's a lot about honoring our inner relationship with ourselves and what we provide. So integration for me is this different stages, right, that I described, different phases. And then the whole purpose of it is really about self-love, about self-support and self-honoring the sacredness.
Yeah, thank you.